So the people who having the issue with joining here, what I did, I just make the stream live on the YouTube. So from there they can join. So this is a link. Using that, the people can join from the .NET X YouTube channel. Sorry for the inconvenience. So the people who are joining me on the YouTube, you can also ask your query through the chat window over there. I will reply. So the agenda for the today topic is that DevOps for the beginner. If you're looking for the DevOps, so what are the skill set you should have and how you can prepare yourself for the DevOps today we are discussing in this session. So when it is coming to building the software, this is the complete life cycle of the software development we having. But how we can make it automate, how we can constantly deliver the value to our customer. So that is coming into the DevOps. So ultimately DevOps is going to automate the many process involved in the software release, in the software deployment over there. So now the most important thing is, who is DevOps engineer? How many people having this query? Can you raise your hand? Can you ask the things? Because I'm sure many people having this query, who is DevOps engineer? Okay. So many people think about DevOps engineer as a developer, as a administrator. What are the skill set I should know to become it? So let me tell you here, a DevOps engineer can be a system administrator, a person who is involved in the infrastructure management, in the infrastructure configuration and the provisioning, can be a DevOps engineer. But make sure that person having the understanding of how to write the code. So you can say a person who is good in the administration activity, plus he having a good understanding about the writing the code, can be a DevOps engineer. Now we having the another aspect as well. A person who is good in the development activities, who is a already developers, know how to build end-to-end project, but he also know the basics of the system administration. Like he's aware of the networking, he's aware of the virtual machine, he's aware of the how we provision the infrastructure. So that can also be a DevOps engineer. So the people who are actually from the background of system administration can also be a DevOps engineer, but make sure those people having the understanding of writing the code. Another, the people who having a good understanding of writing the code, who are already working as a developers, but they should have the basic understanding of system administration, can be the DevOps engineer. So when it is coming to the DevOps engineer mainly role, so DevOps engineer mainly responsible for automating the build of the software. They automate the release of the software. They provision the necessary infrastructure, because behind the scene, it might be you are going to deploy the code in the cloud. So he's responsible for managing that infrastructure. Who is responsible for monitoring the application running over there? So the people in as a DevOps engineer responsible for tracking those things over there. In the system administration, the activity like provisioning your infrastructure, creating the virtual machine, creating the network, taking the regular backup of your data comes under this administration. When it is coming to development, writing the code for the project, writing the unit test cases for the project, designing the UI, writing the API, writing the store procedure, designing your database. So these various activities comes under the development over there. So I hope everyone can see my screen. I'm right. Okay, it's already there. So do you have any other query regarding the DevOps engineer? I hope everyone is now got the query answer. Like who can be the DevOps engineer? I'm right. Okay, thank you. So there is a third person as well. That is a very, very rare case who actually good in both the activities. Okay, that can also be the DevOps engineer. But it is a rare case who also very good in development, who also very good in the administration, who also very good in the both the things. It's a rare case, but we having such people also who are good in both the areas. So they can get the things. Let's say they can be a very good system administrator. They can be very good developers as well. So if somebody making a plan to become the DevOps engineer, so depending upon your background, you have to just follow the path. Even when it is coming to the jobs in the market, so company prefer two types of DevOps engineer over there. Some DevOps engineer they prefer from the coding background. Some DevOps engineer they prefer from the administration background. So they always hire the mix of DevOps engineer. It's not the case they always hire the people who are only from the administrator background. Are they only from the development background? Because when they're having the mix of things, so it's easy to manage all the activity of the DevOps. Because many project, the understanding of code is necessary in many project. The understanding of the infrastructure is more important. So depending upon the requirement, they can have the things over there. So now the thing is how the DevOps works into the picture. So if you're looking at here, so as a developer, the people are responsible for writing the code. So this way, they can write the code here. They will commit it to the source control like we have in Git. We can have GitHub. Are we having the Git based others version control? So what are the code a developer will commit? That code will be picked up by the CI server. So we having is continuous integration server that every time pick up the commit from the this source control and build the complete project. If it is finding out any bug, any issue while the building the code, it let us know. If it is perfect, there is no error in building the code. Further, it goes to the release management. So as per the release management, whatever the various pipeline you have created, it will deploy the code to the dev environment. It will deploy the code to the QA environment. It deployed the code to the staging environment. So if you're looking at here, till this activity, the development people are responsible. Means the devs are responsible. When it is coming to managing the release, when it is coming to managing the build, operation team, like operation team people are responsible over there. So when it is coming to a DevOps engineer, so as a DevOps engineer, you mainly involved in this area. This is the area of DevOps engineer. They are responsible for managing the things over there. If let's say a person is a developer, so he might be involved in the development, he might be involved in entire things. But if a person is, let's say, good only in infra side, he would be involved more in this area. So depending upon your experience, depending upon your understanding, uh, the responsibility you are going to handle in a team over there. I hope it is clear to everyone. So now it is very important things, DevOps tools. Because when it is coming to the DevOps one, we having many tools. Even there are around 50 plus tools. So people are actually confused here. Which one to select, which one not to select over there. So few of the important tools list I'm sharing here. So let's think about, we are doing the sprint planning. So what are the various tools you can use for planning your sprint? If you're taking the example of the Azure, we having the Azure board. But if you're looking for the other option, we having the Jira, we having the Trello, even we having others also. Using that, we can do the sprint planning. So sprint planning means we can follow the Agile over there. We can create the task over there. So this is a complete sprint planning we do before starting a project. So you can say about planning the project things over there. Then we having here tools for the code management. So when it is coming to a development, so as a developer, we commit the code to the Git, we commit the code to the TFS, or we commit the code to the Git-based repos. It can be GitHub, it can be Bitbucket. So in Azure, we having these two over there. In AWS, if let's say you're using the AWS, you can use your AWS code commit. So this is the option are available for the code management. Then when it is coming to here, or let's say creating the build, creating the CI/CD pipeline. So in Azure, we having, let's say, Azure pipeline. We having the Jenkins also, that is the most popular one. We having the Maven, we having the AWS code pipeline. We having the others as well, like Teams, it is also there. So these are the many tools. You have to use only one. I'm not saying you have to use all of them. You have to use only one to create the build, to create the CI/CD pipeline. Then we having here the tools for the testing and automation. So we having the Azure test plan, we having the Selenium, we having the JMeter. So these are the various tools are required. What are the test cases we have written in the application to test them and to do the things over there. Then we having the tools for the configuration. So configuration means we are going to configure our infrastructure. So there we can use ARM templates in Azure. We can use Terraform. So Terraform can be used with AWS. The Terraform can be with Azure as well and with others cloud. And we use Ansible as well. So these are the tools can help us to configure and to provision our infrastructure. Then we having the other tools for monitoring. So in Azure, we having the application Insight. In others, we having the NAG OS, we having the Splunk, we having the CloudWatch in AWS. So I did hear the mixing of AWS, Azure, and others tools. If you're not going to go ahead with the cloud-based tools, so others tools I have also mentioned over there. So now the question is here, everyone cannot learn all the tools because there are two clouds are involved here, AWS and Azure, and we having the many other tools are involved over there. And every project requirement will vary depending upon the things. So let me show you here the path which you can follow to be a DevOps engineer. So what are the learning paths are available? So the learning path for the DevOps engineer I'm sharing with you, because if you're looking at over the internet, people are just talking about the DevOps engineer. They just teaching the many tools over there. But ultimately, it's not required to learn many tools, frankly speaking, because nobody can understand all the tools over there. Please decide a clear-cut path where you are willing to work. So first decide a one path. Later on, you can keep adding the tools into your skill set. But if you will try to learn everything in one go, it is not possible. So first select a particular path, prepare all the things around that path. I'm sure you will get the job as well. Later on, depending upon the requirement, you can keep adding the other skill set simply. So the thing is, when it is coming to DevOps tools, so these are the DevOps tool which I mentioned in this picture are the DevOps tool without cloud you can do. Just think about you are going to manage everything yourself. Or you can say you are going to do everything in your own prem environment. So these tools combination can be used. So we can use Jira or Trello for the sprint planning. For code, we can set up the Git also in our server and do everything over there. For creating the build and the releases, we can configure the Jenkins over there. If you need to provision the infrastructure, we can use Terraform over there. If you're going to use the containers based application deployment, you have to have the understanding of Docker and the Kubernetes. And one more thing you have to also remember here, it's about only container management. It's not about container development. There is a difference in the management and the development. So the objective of DevOps engineer is only to understand the container deployment. They are not involved how to create that container. They only involved how to do the deployment over there. Then we having here the NAG OS for the monitoring. This is the one path you can have. But nowadays, if you're looking at company are using the cloud, am I right? Company are using the Azure, company are using the AWS. So if you will look at from the perspective of Azure, in Azure, everything is available. So in Azure DevOps engineer, we having the alternative of Jira and Trello as Azure board. For the Git, we having the Azure repo. In place of Jenkins, we having here Azure pipelines. For the test plan, we having here Azure test plan. Azure artifact is there, application insight is there. So this one set is sufficient to be a Azure DevOps engineer. But few things you should also explore from here. Let's say you should have the understanding of Git, because the Git is going to be used here in Azure repo. Similar way, when it is coming to the infrastructure as a code, so you should have the understanding of Terraform over there. It will help you as Azure DevOps engineer. If let's say you're willing to package your application, the Docker and the Kubernetes, so this understanding can also help you. If the application is based upon the Docker and Kubernetes, others thing you can skip. You don't need to focus on. So these can be the tools you can prepare for becoming a Azure DevOps engineer. Because these only tools the people are expecting from you if they are going to host the application on the Azure as a cloud. But if the same thing is happening with AWS, in AWS, we having these set of tools. So for AWS, we don't have any tool right now for the planning as we having the Azure board. So in that case, you might be using Jira, you might be using Trello if it is a AWS. Now I'm talking about the AWS one. So you might be using one of them. Let's say you are using Jira Trello over there. Then in AWS, we having the AWS code commit, we having the AWS code pipeline, AWS code deploy, AWS code artifact, we having the cloud watch. So if you are having a plan to explore everything around AWS, so these tools and these tools, even Git also here important. Git also learn over there. And here you can also learn this one, Docker and Kubernetes and Terraform. So if you're looking at here as a cloud, many things are already provided over there. Few things need to explain. You need to explore over there. Is it clear now? Do you have any query regarding this one? Because I'm sure many people might be confusing over there. Yeah, if you're already working as a in the IT field and you're having a more than 10 years of experience, you can search to the DevOps engineer without an issue. Because for being a DevOps engineer, you will not be involved more in the coding side. Because some people might having the issue, they are not good in the coding, but they somehow are willing to settle themselves. So they can switch to the path of the DevOps engineer. And if you're looking at the market requirement, companies are migrating their code to the cloud, especially AWS and Azure. So many developers are needed nowadays. Sorry, many DevOps engineers are needed nowadays for managing the complete end-to-end project lifecycle with the DevOps. So there is a lot of demand right now of the DevOps engineer in the market. Because of COVID, what is happening, everything is going to move to the cloud. So we are moving to the cloud, we are going to automate the things over there. So for automation, we need a proper setup of the build pipeline. We need a proper setup of the release pipeline. So that's why the companies are willing to pay high salary as well to the DevOps engineer. So salary of the DevOps engineer is high as compared to the salary of a developer. The reason is here, the people in the market are very less and the requirement is huge to automate the things. Do you have any other query regarding this one? To learn this tool, obviously times is required. At least you have to spend 1 month if you're going forward to a one path. If let's say you're going to explore the Azure DevOps engineer path, and you might be a developer, you might be a, let's say, the administrator. So in that case, you should have the basic understanding of cloud as well, because everything we're exploring around the cloud. And within the 1 month of time span, you're able to learn all the things over there. Yeah, we having the DevOps certification as well. In Azure, we having the Azure DevOps engineer certification. In AWS also, we having the certification. So certification also available in each of the cloud with whatever the services mentioned in this picture. Around that, they ask the set of question over there. When it is coming the scope wise, both are the clouds are widely used right now. If you're looking at what are the two major cloud vendor in the market, you will find out AWS and Azure. These are the two major player in the market. So when it is coming to managing the infrastructure, going to automate the things, so obviously these are the two DevOps engineer are going to be hired. Certification name already told you, Azure DevOps engineer is a certification for Azure. Similar way we having the AWS DevOps is the certification for AWS. Okay, now let me show you here the job profile as well. If you look at in this picture, I just mentioned two job profile because somebody might be asking which one is having the better scope. So just look at these two JD. One JD is around Azure DevOps engineer. Another JD we having here AWS one. If you will look at the skill set here, they clearly mention Azure here, CI/CD concept. You should have the understanding of, let's say, Git, Docker, and Kubernetes. You should have the understanding of Jenkins over there. You should have the understanding of the Linux over here, Agile, Scrum, Kanban team. And this is the salary package they are offering here. Even the experience of 4 to 6 years. If you be comparing with AWS, this is my AWS one. Almost same thing they're expecting, but it is now AWS. Tools are same. Kubernetes, Terraform. Okay, but here it is around AWS itself. Salary package is exactly same. There is no difference. A Linux basic understanding is required because when it is coming to provisioning the infrastructure, their Linux is required to understand. But it's not about you should be proficient over there, but you should know how to explore the Linux directory over there, how you can get into the Linux one. As you can access your Windows machine. Similar way, you need to know how to access the Linux machine over there. Clear? Because when it is coming to the application deployment can be done on the Linux. The application deployment can be done on the Windows. So as a Windows developer, you are already fine. You're already working on Windows 10. You're already working on the Windows 11 XP. You will not face any challenges because there is a GUI based. But Linux is not the GUI based. Everything you have to understand through the command over there. So that's why you need to have the understanding of Linux. You have to have the understanding of the cloud as well. So this is the way how the DevOps is coming into the picture. Yogesh, if you know the Jenkins, but only Jenkins will not save you. Because in one project, it might be the case somebody using the Jenkins. In another project, it might be the case somebody using the AWS commit. They might be using the integration with AWS. They might be the integration with Azure. So combination of the tools is going to vary project to project. So very few projects having a specific to the Azure. Very few projects are having specific to the AWS. Very few projects are specific to the Jenkins only. So many combinations are available in the market. So that's why I'm saying decide one path as I shown in the picture, because nobody can learn everything. So be an expert in one field, either in Azure DevOps area, either in AWS DevOps side, either in the open source one. That's a Jenkins and others over there. Is it clear? Any other queries, guys, do you have? I hope it is now also clear with you. So the data which I had taken, I'm just showing you here, I taken from the naukri.com. Same job are listed over the Naukri. You can open over there and you will figure out simply. So in this session, my focus is around this Azure DevOps over there. So for becoming Azure DevOps engineer, you should have the basic understanding of Azure. Then you should have an account on the Azure DevOps. So let me show you here. So when you will go here, dev.azure.com, this is a URL to access the Azure DevOps over there. And here we having the many organization. So let's say this is my organization is here, where I can create my project. So if you're taking the example of, let's say, this e-commerce application, and here you can see these are the available services the Azure is offering to us. So let me change here theme. Is it clear now? So first thing, it is going to start with the board. So when it is coming to the planning and all the things we do here using the Azure board here, when it is coming to the code management and all the things, we having here repo. So if you look at the board here, I can create my work item. So what are the work item we having here? We can figure out here. So all the backlog. Let me show you. I'm having some backlogs already with some other project. So here actually we are doing the sprint planning like this way. So this way we are defining the sprint planning. So what are the epic we having, whatever the feature we having, what is the story we are willing to create, everything we are just going to access over there. It's a complete for planning. So as a DevOps engineer, you would not be involved over here because the planning part is done by the project manager. It is done by the we having the BA business analyst. So those people are mainly focusing in this area. Because in the Azure DevOps side as well, we having many roles as well. So what is the role of the project manager as a business analyst? So those people actually involved in the project planning, in the planning the sprint over there, creating the work item. So it's a completely about planning and management and tracking the progress about that one. So here you can figure out how many sprint you having, like say you have decided, and in which sprint you having the things. So for that what we having this task board like this way. So here you can move the task here from this place to this place over there. So these are task board over there. Here we can figure out the capacity. These are the few people I added over there. Based upon that, I can do the things. This is about code management. This is about repo. So what are the code you're building locally? That code we can publish over here and it will come under this repo. And here we having the two option, either use Git, either use TFS. So nowadays the most popular one is Git here. So understanding of Git is also important. Here Git is coming simply. If you're already having the Azure DevOps experience, obviously you can switch to another company without thinking much. So here we can manage the repository. So it's a repository management here we can do. So depending upon the requirement, we create the many branches over there. Then we having the pipeline. So as I said, we need to create the build pipeline. So here we design the build pipeline. We design the release pipeline. So what are the things we have been can see? It's about build pipeline, how many are failing here, how many are passing here. So each pipeline detail is available. So by looking at the things over here, why it is failing, why it is passing, you can figure out what is happening with this commit, what we have done with this commit simply. Then we having about here the release pipeline. So you have to provide the releases of your software to the various environment. It can be your dev environment, it can be your production environment, it can be your testing environment. To many environment, we can provide the releases here. It's about the release management completely. So here, the main things happens of the DevOps engineer. The creating the pipeline, deciding the things over there, and doing the things over there. Then we have been here the test plan. What are the various unit test cases you have written, do the things. Here it is coming simply. Then we having the artifacts. So what are the various packages you are using in the project and what you are willing to use, those will come under this artifacts here. So these are the various services are coming over there. The difference between Agile and the DevOps, you can think about Agile is about only planning your software. Agile is not dealing with the release and the pipeline automation. In DevOps, it's more about automation of your releases and build. So just next to the Agile, we having the DevOps. Even I'm having a picture to make a clear difference between these two. You will have the understanding more by looking at this picture. How both are fitting together, Agile and DevOps. Okay, it is involved. So when it is come, just look at the picture. How the Agile and DevOps are come into picture. So you can see this is the Agile. The yellow one is Agile here, which is mainly involved in designing, coding, merging, code review. But when it is coming to the operation one, automation of releases, monitoring the things, it's coming here in the operation. So when it is coming to difference between the pipeline and the release pipeline is, here everything is under the pipeline. So when I will say pipeline, so pipeline means I'm talking about the build pipeline here. When it is coming with releases, I'm talking about the release pipeline. Build pipeline means we are only building the code to figure out there is no issue while building the things. I'm not releasing it anywhere. To deploy the code to a particular environment, we having the release pipeline. For managing the DB script, you have to create a separate pipeline for database deployment. So whatever the database changes you are doing locally, and you are willing to deploy to the cloud, it can be your Azure SQL, let's say it can be any other. So you have to create a database pipeline. So it will create over there DACPAC file. That DACPAC file will contain all the changes and will update your database based upon that. Anything else? So as a best practice, you should have a separate database pipeline for that purpose. Another query do you have? For code compilation, they use behind the scene as an agent. So agent is a nothing, agent is a just machine where everything is set up for you. On that machine, the code is going to be built. So if let's say you're having a .NET one, so there is a virtual machine over there, they will provide you there in the pipeline, we having the steps to download the .NET CLI, to download the .NET SDK, to restore the NuGet packages, and we build the things over there. So everything is happening at that machine level. So everything you need to set up. If let's say you're having your older .NET application, that can be the MVC5, that can be the ASP.NET Web Form. So there we having the MS build setup. So you need to have an agent with MS build, a pre-installed Visual Studio over there. So there we having the things. So do you have any query regarding this one? Is it clear? To set up the project from the scratch, need a lot of, so I don't have much time here. So today I'm not going to show you the project setup and all the things, because the intention for today class was to give you the understanding about the DevOps tool and what can be the path to be a DevOps engineer. If you're having around the things, you can ask over there. When it is coming to CI/CD, so CI stand for here continuous integration. It means every time when the developer will commit the code, it will pull the code from the repository and build it. It is continuous integration because constantly it is building the code after each commit. CD stand for continuous delivery and deployment. Continuous delivery means if building is successful, so it will go to the next stage. When it will go to the next stage, then as per the release pipeline setup, it will deploy the code to the development environment, to the production environment, and to another one as well. That is a continuous delivery. We having here continuous deployment as well. If you're willing to automate everything, then we having the continuous deployment. Your test plan we having here for testing your unit test project. We having here for the automation as well. Depending upon your requirement, we can do it. If you are a quality engineer, if you are, let's say, the test engineer, so you can use the test plan for the test automation. But if let's say you're having only unit testing one, you can use for the unit testing purpose over there. We having two things here. DevOps engineer actually will set up the things here with the help of the QA team. So this setup is done by the completely DevOps engineer. If you are having the experience in the .NET, I suggest to go ahead with the Azure DevOps engineer. If you're having the experience in Java or like PHP, you should go ahead with the AWS DevOps engineer. So depending upon your background, you need to select the path. So I recommend for the .NET developer Azure DevOps engineer path, and for Java developer, I recommend the AWS DevOps engineer, because as a Java developer, mainly we use AWS. As a .NET developer, mainly we use Azure. This is a preference. Is somebody willing to join the training program on the Azure DevOps? So we having a training program on Azure DevOps, which you can explore over here, Azure DevOps Engineer. So this is a training program we are offering over here that is specific to the Azure DevOps engineer. So we are just explaining here everything, how to use all the tools which I mentioned in this today program over there, how to create the pipeline. So these are the things you're going to learn completely over there. So this is a training program we are offering for the Azure DevOps engineer that is specially designed for the people who are willing to explore or who are willing to become the Azure DevOps engineer. If someone is willing to join the training program, I'm sharing a Google form with you. Just fill up the Google form here and you can avail the 10% discount as per the webinar you are joining today over here. It's mentioned on the Google form as well. If somebody don't have the Linux background, you don't need to learn the Linux over there. If you are a mainly in the Azure DevOps engineer, because there are so many projects in the .NET still we are deploying on the Windows itself. But if there is a requirement to have the Linux one, we having the Linux one over there. It's a live training program. It's not a self-paced. It's a complete live training where you will learn along with the mentor to do the things. It's a complete hands-on training where you are creating the pipeline along with the mentor. If you are sticking somewhere, the mentor is there to help you. So it's a complete live training where we are creating the environment for development, QA, production, and you are doing the deployment as per this picture mentioned over there. Duration of the training is around 1 month here. If somebody is interested, please fill the form to get extra 10% discount on this training program. We are going to start a batch soon. If you have any other query, please do ask. I'm here to help you. Costing part, you will get it. Fill the form. My team will call you. To the team, you can discuss about the costing. In weekdays, right now, we don't have any course, but we are planning. So hopefully from the next month, we start making the things in the fast track, but right now we don't have any fast track course. We having only the weekend batches right now, where you having the 3-hour session. I already explained here, you have to just create a pipeline over there for the development, and then the same pipeline further you can move to the another environment over there. So do you have any other query? It's a weekend training. We are not going to build here project. We will have a already built project that we deploy to the Azure. That project pipeline we are going to do over there. This training is not about project development. This training is about the project deployment, project management. As I said, around the Azure DevOps engineer, all the things are going to cover. You can look at the course content there. Everything is mentioned. If you're still having the query, you can fill up the form. Just fill up the form over there, and my team will help you know. I said when it is coming to the Azure DevOps, obviously the deployment would be on Azure. But we are not teaching here Azure, we are teaching only the Azure deployment. For the .NET developer, it should be the Azure 204 certification exam, AZ 204 exam you should attempt as a developer. Azure developer is mainly involved for building the software using the Azure services. Azure DevOps engineer is mainly involved to create the build pipeline, to create the release pipeline. That is a main role of the DevOps engineer. Yeah, we having the course for Azure DevOps, Azure developer as well. That is AZ204. That information is also mentioned over there. If somebody is willing to invest in Azure developer certification, you can refer this link for Azure developer certification. Here, fill the same form over there, and you can tell to the team, I'm interested in Azure developer certification. The team will help you for the Azure developer certification exam as well. Another query do you have? Okay, thank you for joining today's session. I hope I given the answer of your queries. Shohani, I said here, whatever the Azure DevOps we having, the deployment would be on Azure itself. If you're having something different, I'm not sure, ask your question in detail. What do you mean by the Azure migration? Thank you everyone for joining the session. Bye.